Welcome to Sober Shenanigans. Real talk and real recovery, sharing stories, old and new, trying to stay on the right path and help others just like you. So feel our flow and get on with the show. Here's your hosts, Stoff and Primo.
I know.
So,
All right, ready?
yes, sir.
All right. Welcome to Sober Shenanigans, real talk and real recovery. We're just two average, everyday alcoholics trying to get better one day at a time and trying to help somebody while we do it. I'm your main man, Stoff, and with me tonight is my man, Hunter Grand, as usual, Primo. What's up, Primo?
Dude, what's going on, man? It's good to be back. I felt like we've been on vacation. It's been like eight or 9 days.
It's been 8 or 9 days since we did this. I know, it does feel like we took a little break, doesn't it?
I know, but we're still going to hit the deadline. We're going to get the show out tomorrow. The show must go on. We're going to break a leg. Hopefully nobody breaks a leg, but we're going to make it work.
We're going to make it work. And tonight we have a special guest with us. We have a longtime friend of Primo's. It's our main man, Skinner. What's up, Skinner? How are you tonight?
I'm fantastic. Thank you so much for inviting me, and I'm impressed and blown away by the whole setup here, and looking forward to hearing more.
Mike, I'm expecting a lot out of you. Okay, I want you to inspire people. Mike, we go back to maybe when I was like, let's just say 28 days sober, and then they said, well, we think you need more treatment. You have to go. There were this old dude walks up to me on the pool. I'm at Club Recovery in Naples, and I'm at the pool, and this old English dude, the wizard, I call him, guy who knew how to talk to me, and I was slicker than cat shit on wet grass. So he walks up to me and he goes, Tampa or Atlanta? And then he just he goes, I just need one answer. Because he knew I was going to ask a bunch of questions and all this other stuff. And I'm like, yeah, but. And I thought about it, and he just kept going, Tampa or Atlanta? And so I said Tampa. And then I go, but you have to tell me what we're talking about. He goes, that's where we're shipping your ass off to. A place called Turning Point in Tampa. And he goes, it's already ready to go. And you're going to need a little more help. So I show up there. I'm on a ton of medications. I'm on Stelazine, which is a derivative of Thorazine. I'm literally bouncing off the walls. And I show up and I meet with him, and I'm trying to convince him that the cartel is after me.
You meet with who?
Mike Skinner is my therapist.
I know you're pointing, but this is on the radio. Nobody can see that.
Okay, so I love you, man. You know I love you, Stoff. So Stoff is the pro on the show, okay, the real pro. And so I meet with Skinner over here, and I'm trying to convince him that, that we have to be careful because they are looking for me. And I know that I kind of freaked him out because some of the stuff was based in reality. I mean, some dude just blew up the DEA office down there, and this other guy there was some heavy-duty drug dealing and crazy shit going on. So there's Mike, and that's how I met Mike.
Was this 1991?
92.
Yeah, 1992.
Yeah.
Got to go back a few years and think about how things were. And back in those days, it was typical for some to do a 28-day treatment center.
Yep.
And get recommended for 6 months, 3 months sometimes of a halfway house. And so what Turning Point does, it was innovative at the time. They had where you would do some groups therapy at night. You'd meet with an individual counselor in the afternoons or the evenings. And during the day, they encouraged people like Chris here to volunteer or get a job or somehow keep yourself busy and out of trouble during the day.
Yeah, that wasn't. That was difficult.
That was difficult. Well, Skinner, it's great to have you, and I know you're going to drop some gems for our friends. And why don't you just, if you don't mind, start with your personal story? How about what your life was like before you decided to get sober? Maybe just start from wherever you'd like to start, and let's get the flow going.
Well, I like Chris, Florida boy, grew up around here, And had 2 kids, beautiful boy and a girl, very young. And I was 22, 23 years old. I look at the way my drinking, I'm a recovering person as well as everybody in the room here. So I feel right at home. And, I look at my drinking as the first 5 years, having a lot of fun, having a great time. Second 5 years, the people around me were doing better than I was. A couple of my buddies went off into the Marines. A couple of my buddies, started businesses and were being real successful. But, that's when I saw that I was going nowhere. I moved. One of my big tricks was in 1979, 1980, I moved to Miami because I felt like I needed to get away from the drug dealers that I grew up with and that I knew here in this area. So I moved to Miami in 1979. That didn't work, but I eventually got to the point where for me, I was drinking and drinking and drinking and not getting drunk. It stopped working. And that was a bad place for me to be because at that point I wanted to die. I felt like dying. And that was where I jumped off. A couple of false starts, going to the meetings, getting some help. And then I finally did get some other help too, some counseling along with going to the meetings in 1987. So a big part of my recovery was reinventing myself. I had a small landscaping business that I just hated my life, hated it. And it was, a big part of that landscaping business was getting up in the morning and, wake and bake,
Yeah.
And then I would drink starting early.
I tried to envy you. It was hard though.
So then I got into, this was scary. Me and Chris were talking about this a little bit, how scary it was that I got involved with the state, and they invested in me and sent me back to school. And they gave me a choice. They sat me down. I was like, I don't know what. It was a third step thing for me. I'm going to turn my life and will over to whoever's deciding what I'm going to be. Because at one point, I wanted to be a baseball player. I wanted to join the circus. I wanted to be a fireman. So I said, I don't know. Let them decide. And they tested me, sent me to a doctor, sent me to a psychiatrist, sent me to a psychologist, gave me all these vocational tests, sat me down. It was a big moment. They said, okay, here's what we're going to do. You're going to be a drug counselor. I was like, oh, what the hell? I don't want to do that. And they go, you'll make, $17,000 a year. We'll get you a job. I'm like, really? Oh, my God. But I did end up doing okay doing that. And I when I met Chris, I probably had 4 years sober.
Yeah.
And I had a certification, a state certification, which was an apprenticeship, really. So the people that really helped Chris, I think, were the people that supervised me and said, take his car keys.
Yeah.
Or, so I was getting a lot of good supervision at that time. And Turning Point was one of the best jobs I got. I had because I basically, the guy that was running the treatment center, Jim Troy.
Yeah.
He went to a men's meeting that I went to, and I called up my buddy and I said, listen, I just got laid off. I need to go to this men's meeting. You want to come with me? And the two of us went there, and I went into the meeting and basically said to, tried to share something deep and meaningful.
Yeah.
And then I went up to him after the meeting and hit him up for a job. So, but again, there was a couple of smarter counselors there at that facility, and they said this, he don't, everything he tells you, probably don't believe him. So there was a lot of that going on.
Yeah.
No, I remember looking up to you like, shit, you got 5 years sober and you're doing this, like wow, like you got something, man. Like you're going places. That's how. I was at rock bottom.
Mike, did you ever go to a rehab or a facility?
I went to an outpatient facility for a while, and I met a guy that went through Bayshore on the Gulf, and he became a counselor. So it was those days. And then remember, like late 80s,
Yeah.
there were still a lot of those businesses around, and it was soon to be gone forever, blown away in the wind. So I don't really even see those, not too many 28-day programs anymore.
Yeah.
And I worked for a couple at the state level, and I learned a lot. At the program I was involved in was at St. Pete Junior College. It was I got a 2-year degree in human services with a specialization in drug and alcohol, and there was some good information. I remember being in the classes thinking, I may not be able to help anybody else, but I'm sure learning a lot about my disease and my situation, and it maybe nobody, I ran into Chris probably 3 years ago at a convention, and I saw him walking down there. I go, well, there's one. He's still here.
Yeah.
And I remember coming up to him, and I was amazed that he'd been sober all that time. And that's you, buddy. That's not anybody else but you. I mean, you're higher power, and you started the journey a long time ago, but and I know, sailing those waters,
Sure.
avoiding those obstacles. We stepped over between the two of us, many other people that we knew back in those days that for whatever reason jumped off.
Well, it's obviously we're wearing it well in our old age now that we're getting old, and I can't wait to get older. So exciting.
Well, it beats the alternative.
I know, but shit, man, it's like God.
Well, getting older is fun when you're sober. I mean, I can remember deep in my addiction, I didn't want to get a day older. I every day sucked until I figured out that I needed to get away from that. Every day was just horrible. And I still remember that when I go to a meeting sometimes. I'll be like, man, I'm really blessed to be here and be sober for coming up on 3 years, and how much I hated my life right before I got sober.
That's true.
Yeah. Skinner, did you battle in and out? Like, did you try to quit a few times and then finally something clicked?
I came in, I was amazed by the meetings. To me, they were talking, they would say things like, I was like, I'm 28 years old, I can't do this. My whole life. They go, no, just don't do it today.
Right.
And I would work that over in my head, and I could not make that. I thought that was the most amazing thing. That concept of that was the most amazing. And every meeting I went to was like that. But I would go to 5. When I first started. Again, I had 2 little kids. I had a wife, and she's like, well, "Are you going to go to this thing every night?" And I'm like, "No, I'll go Monday through Friday. I'll take the weekends off." They talked about getting a sponsor. I had no interest in getting some guy to be my Valentine. I was not interested in that. I would talk bullshit at the meetings. And of course, you and we all in this room know that's not going to work. And,
Not for very long.
And I relapsed, right? And so then I was miserable again. Just like you talked about, I was completely miserable. And I thought, this time, I knew there were people just like me that were happy and they'd figured something out. And so I went about 3 or 4 more months stealing codeine from my in-laws and, doing crazy stuff and just depressed and sad again. And so I remember going to I didn't even get caught. I was living that secret lifestyle, like I pretended to be sober.
Yeah.
And, I ended up going back to the meetings, and then I've been sober since. So I was pretty lucky. I've been very lucky to live a life of, it's hard to even remember back in those days, but to live a long life of sobriety, and not like I haven't made a whole lot of mistakes in sobriety. I have, but I've been fortunate to not have relapsed that period of time, because I did some crazy shit over those years, but didn't pick up. So
Makes it fun.
well, yeah, but you can get yourself in just as much trouble. I mean, I went to jail sober
Really?
because I didn't pay my tickets. I thought they would pull out the very special, hey, I'm sober, you can't take me to jail. I couldn't believe they were dragging me to jail for not paying my traffic tickets.
I love that.
I
love it.
But, after a while, at least sober, you have the opportunity to change and grow up and, get yourself back on track. And for me, a big part of it was going back to school. So,
How long were you sober before you worked the steps?
I think when I relapsed and I came back, my sponsor said to me, "Hey, at these treatment centers, they're telling you to do a 4-step before you get out." He said, "So you better start on your 4-step right away." Because I knew him, and I asked him to be my sponsor once I came back.
Cool.
And he had me working on a 4-step, but I believe I still put it off. So it was probably 6 months when I finally did a 5th-step, and I had no interest in doing a 4-step with this particular guy because I did not want to see him ever. Whoever I told this stuff to, I did not want to see them ever again. So I paid a counselor, and I knew he had to be somebody that would keep his mouth shut, and so I did it that way. But I really had nothing huge secret. It was all in my crazy head anyhow. What about you? When did you do it? Did you do it at Turning Point?
Yeah, I did. Me and my buddy Serban we were meeting buddies, and we were going to an old timer meeting, and we both got these old timer sponsors, and they were just kicking us in the nuts, like black belt, super black belt, strict, accountability, and it's everything I needed as the crazy kid I was. And so I'm totally grateful for it. But I remember taking my time and then realizing how much I regretted not doing it sooner, because it was a relief. I released a lot of the demons, and I was able to do some good after that. And I mean, I had so many layers of me that needed work that I was just scratching the surface. I mean, I literally could go to rehab and go out and get drunk in the middle of a rehab and then get kicked out of that rehab. Like, I did not care, and I was literally bleeding from places, that I shouldn't bleed from. Like, I was on a death mission, and it definitely was an awakening for me. I needed to be smacked.
I believe people like you and me, Chris, when I know for me it's true, is I needed habilitation. Rehabilitation is at one point maybe in your life you did have some values and you had some ways to cope. But for me, I was so young when I started, and I was so young stopping that I had no tools, and I needed to habilitate and get myself some stuff. And so I think that's a different story than somebody maybe that had some values growing up and started later, and then they're older when they come in. So, I believe that AA meets you, recovery meets you where you're at.
I think I had to become institutionalized so that I could recover from that. Like, it was almost a distraction from my drug and alcohol addiction. The fact that I had somebody else telling me what to do for a couple of years. You know what I mean? And I wasn't even my own person. And I had to slowly reintegrate back into society. That was an important part of the journey for me, was to take a complete 180 away from everything and then totally hide away from alcohol. And not, I was told I couldn't, I had to get rid of my pool stick, and I had to get rid of this. And, I had to do these things. And I slowly but surely reintegrated all those things back into my life, but I had to do a real hardcore, I would go to a restaurant that was serving alcohol. I mean, I was totally hardcore,
Well, you speak about the 4-step too, and I remember getting it ready, doing the 5th step, and the guy I did it with, the counselor, handed me a big book, told me to go down to this little park, get on my knees, and do 6 and 7 right then and there.
Yep.
And I did experience what you shared about that freedom, that I could still practice some of the bullshit that I'd always done, but I didn't have to anymore. I had a freedom of I can let go of that stuff, and I had that experience. But I feel like I've done it probably 4 or 5 more times. And at those times, we had those forms. I don't know, these days, I give guys forms when I'm asking them to do a 4th or 5th step. Charlie and the guys out of L.A. Who are those guys?
Joe and Charlie.
Joe and Charlie instead of Chris and Mike. It should be Chris and Mike. But
Yeah.
Joe and Charlie. I mean, who are these guys?
I'm like old school, man. I only use the big book. I don't use anything but the big book. And it's tried and true. Before the 12 and 12 was written, was what my sponsor used to, how he did them.
Right.
So he was an old codger.
Right. I'm probably a little more treatment center, like that educational variety, like we were talking about before. I definitely believe in the big book, but the book was written in 1935 and
39.
39, thank you. And the 12 and
I
12
believe.
were like 55, right?
Yeah.
1955. So the language in the 12 and 12 I like the modern, the more modern stuff in the 70s, like we were talking about it being a disease concept, and that's controversial. That's where we can get a call in, and I can argue with it.
If you want,
I remember I get into teaching about that. What I loved about the drug and alcohol treatment centers is the educational aspect of it, and for me, I was already planning my next career because I wanted to become a teacher really anyway. And so that part of it, the counseling is really about listening.
Yeah.
You know, screw listening. You know what I mean? Like I want to tell you how it is. And so that career is what I really wanted to do, was to become a teacher. And I was lucky enough to be able to get to do that eventually too. And
well, I don't, I'm in, after doing this for many years, whatever, I'm getting to a point where I really think that the goal here is to become happy and undisturbed and to be free of these demons, and whatever that takes. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not going to sit here and judge how somebody else gets happy, but if I'm in a room when somebody's, doing things that are hurting other people, or, then I have an opinion on that, but for the most part, I want to be a source of support for people. But, there comes a time when you got to maybe say something to somebody because they're coming in with all kinds of different motives, and it's uncool. People are trying to get their shit together, and you got to maybe tell them, hey, this isn't about whatever agenda you have. This is about people getting their lives back in order. And, if you're on board with that, man, we're all together. But,
yeah. Do you think that AA has changed significantly since you first came around?
Well, sure. They don't smoke.
Well, yeah.
Okay, so there's that. I think the cool thing about the way it was written and the way that I look at it is it has its own safeguards. Like, as much as we think we're going to protect or save it or ruin it, it doesn't work. It's going to protect itself. It's like divinely inspired the way it was written to self-bail. It's like a boat that will never sink. It'll take on water, it'll do all these things, but it's not going to sink. And I don't care how brilliant you think you are, or what codependency issues you have, or control issues, the damn thing's going to work itself out. And that's why, I don't know. I mean, I've come to that conclusion. I don't know if it makes me smart or not, but I don't even want to get involved in the controversy of it.
Yeah.
Like.
Yeah, I struggle with my home group. And I go to the business meetings and I see something happening, and there's that aspect of being the old timer where it's at some point you got to shut the hell up and back off and watch people do. And that's really, I liked what you just shared there, because that's helpful to me to get my little controlling fingers off it and watch what happens. And usually it bails itself out. That's a good way to look at it.
I am so frustrated I've been going to this group and I've been a little frustrated with the format. And I want a format that lends itself to that's going to lend itself to the newcomer. Like, to me, the whole basis of this thing is to keep it going is you got to have a space that welcomes the newcomer, and it's really got to be geared around that, and then passing it on to them, and then we can discuss our other stuff in the course of that, and maybe even get inspired through watching the newcomer, tell them to go do some stuff, and when they do it, if it works, then great, then we can do it. You know what I mean? Like, we can use them as our research and development team, and then watch them do it, and then when they do it, hey, maybe I'll try it. Or, I'm being facetious, obviously, but I just think it's becoming somewhat of a lost art when these groups get together and they're like, well, we're going to just do this now. And they forget that whole other part of it is part of the growth program, and you have to plant the seeds. And so I'm a little frustrated. I don't like the format, but I like the people and I made some friends. So I actually opened my big mouth. And I decided, well, let's try to change the format on one day a week, and it just went sideways, and it didn't go very well. So I'm like, you know what, screw it. You know what? I mean, that's when I came up with what I just said was, it's gonna bail itself out, And
True story.
And if they ask me for help, I will give it to them though. Otherwise, I'll just start my own goddamn podcast and do it the way I want it. I'll do it my way.
Yeah, I like that.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'll start a goddamn podcast if you don't like it. I got a microphone and a coffee pot.
So, Mike, your family growing up, right? So, were there drinkers in the family? Was there something that got you started?
My uncle is in AA on one side of the family. My uncle on the other side of the family was in AA. My uncle that's on my mother's side, it was a great inspiration to me in a lot of ways as a sober person. So alcohol was one step away. Like my grandparents drank a lot. My parents divorced early, and there was always alcohol in the house. Like when I was young, I'd get sick, and my mother would mix me a hot toddy.
A hot toddy. Me too.
And I would say, I'd drink it down, and then I'd say, yeah. Well, how about another?
Love it.
Double that up. So yeah, there was alcohol in the house, but no, my dad or my mom, neither one had a problem with alcohol. My mom was very social with it, but didn't really ever have a problem. But it was considered at this time in the world a rite of passage when I was more like 14, 15. First time I drank, I blacked out. Right? You too?
Probably.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I think I had a sip off the old man's beer.
Yeah, first time I really drank, I blacked out.
Yeah, I puked all over my mom's, her formal dining room. She had a white carpet put in there.
See, I kind of believe that people like that get it, are young like that. We have some of that stuff in common. If you say that in a meeting, a lot of people are like, yeah, me too.
I puked on the white curtains first night.
First night, right?
White curtains.
White curtains.
Oh man.
Yeah.
That's a song.
My best friend's house. We did the old. I had to stay at his house because my parents would never. I wouldn't coming home with alcohol in my breath. I didn't know I was going to drink that night. We went out. He was a drinker. Got me to drink. I go back to his house. Throw up all over his mom's white curtains. Yeah, we got that in common.
Your parents didn't drink?
My parents did, but I was scared of them, especially my dad. My dad was a real big guy, and he was real strict. And I just knew, and my friends knew, they were like, well, if Greg's going out with us, he can't go home, right? He's got to stay at someone's house because I couldn't go home smelling of anything. Yeah. So, and that first time, I mentioned it a couple weeks ago, is, I was drinking malt liquor, and I ended up making out with the ugly cheerleader and threw up all over the white curtains. Yeah, it was real glamorous. Yeah.
Oh, the old
smoothie,
the old breathalyzers, and the Visine back in the day.
Yeah.
Oh my God. So
you had two uncles in the program.
Yeah.
Wow. See, I don't remember
that
knowing anybody in the program till I got in the program.
Right. Well, I got in, and then that started to become. I became aware of my uncle because he used to say my one uncle. We'd meet him at the racetrack when my dad would take us there when we were little kids. And that they would say, "Oh, here comes Uncle Ed. If he drinks, he'll die." And I just pictured this one little sip and he'd fall over dead. But he was like the town drunk in West Virginia, where my people are from.
Otis.
Otis.
He was an Otis.
My goal was to become Otis of Eastlake, Florida.
Right.
For some reason, I rationalized that.
Right. You could be that guy.
I said, I'll just be the Otis of Eastlake.
Open the jail cell. Let
yourself in. Right. Yeah.
But my other uncle was a doctor, and he was successful and ran for Congress and did all this stuff. And then he went down hard. But I didn't really put it together until I got sober. I was like, oh, yeah, both sides. Now, this was important for me, too, is my sister grew up in the same dysfunctional house I did. And we didn't have a whole lot of supervision. Like that night I blacked out. I was at a football game, got arrested. They took me home and just left me there. There was nobody home, which they don't do that anymore.
I don't think so.
That's very dangerous. I could have,
Yeah.
who knows. But my sister grew up in that same dysfunctional house, but she didn't have that. She didn't break alcohol down differently like I did. So when you were 14, 15, you drank in our culture.
Yeah.
And maybe
Sure.
you tried some other drugs. Maybe it was the late 60s, early 70s. You tried some things, right? So my sister went through all that too. But at some point in her college career, she said, I want to go places in my life.
Smart.
Well, I had those same feelings too. Is it smart, or did she have that ability because she didn't break alcohol down the way I did? It hit her like this, bubbly, 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 nice and easy. And it hit me like this, pow.
Yeah.
And that has to do with genetics, not nature or, nurture. It's more nature, right? So was a convincing thing to me, which you might say, well, what do you need to know that for? And the bottom line is, in recovery, maybe you don't need to know that.
Yeah, but I think there's a part of women were also treated differently than young men. There was different expectations for both. One was maybe not necessarily going to go to college and get a degree. They were going to get married and have kids. So they had to be in the responsible role where the man had to go out and work, and then he would get rewarded.
Right.
I mean, there was culturally a different animal going on too.
True. And in my family, it was a rite of passage. It was expected that I would go and get drunk and
Yes.
do stupid things. That was part of it. You're right.
Yeah. I mean, I got beat up after I threw up. I got beat up by my 3 older brothers for throwing up.
Right.
That's not how you drink. You know what I mean? So we're going to show you how to drink.
So where in the family did you fall? You were
I was the baby.
How many older brothers?
3.
How much distance between you and the next one up?
Well, 3, 4, 5, 7, 8, 9 years. I mean,
Right, all in there. You're
Yeah.
close.
close enough.
Was the oldest like the hero and the next
No,
one the scapegoat?
no.
No, they didn't do any of that.
There was no leadership. No. The oldest was probably the worst, and it just trickled down from there. So that's how that went. Unfortunately, I've seen it where like my wife's kids, their oldest is the son, and he is a model kid. And then the 2 daughters follow right in those footsteps all the way through school, and they all went to Florida, and then that didn't happen in my house.
Yeah.
No, not even, no.
See, my sister was the hero, and as long as she was doing good and going to school and doing well, everything was fine. And she would kind of be the adult in our family a little bit. But when my parents fought, I would come in and break a lamp, and then they would all focus on me, and everybody would get mad at me, and then that way they'd stay together. So I was like that. I fulfilled that role in the family, but
So just the 2 of you?
Yep.
Okay.
And then my kids, my daughter and my son. My daughter was older, my son was younger. So I kind of saw that role once I got sober, seeing it play out with my 2 kids. And my son did get in trouble with alcohol too. And he's sober today, been sober probably 7 years now.
It's great.
Yeah.
And runs a fishing company.
I know.
ByRequestCharter.com.
Oh, well. Nice.
Shameless plug.
Nice plug.
I like
Mike.
it.
What was the name of it?
ByRequestCharter.com.
And that's right here in Clearwater.
It's actually in Dunedin, Florida.
Wow, and right next door.
Nice.
Right next door.
Right across from Bon Appetit. Go
Full
down
day,
there.
half day, the whole 9 yards.
Everything, yeah.
One boaters, he got one specialized for a different time.
One boat for now.
Okay.
Snapper fishing in the summer.
Okay. All right. There you have it. A first.
Great location.
I know.
I love that little marina.
Yeah.
Yeah. Good for him.
Stoff throwing on some thickness there. I like
Nice. Yeah. Well, just, Thick and quick. That's what they call me.
When you got it, you got it.
I guess so.
If you spot it, you got it.
Chris asked me to share too about some things in recovery. You know, as I look back on that lucky life I've had, some of the things that I've really enjoyed is, and I know you have too, Primo, is going to meetings overseas places, locations that you've been to. This last summer I was in Portugal, and my lovely fiance and I went to some nice meetings there. Rockers in Recovery, we found them in downtown Lisbon.
Oh,
And it was just such a beautiful city, and we had so much fun. And then we felt really the great format. I love the way they set it up. I'd really love to see something like that here, because about halfway through the meeting, they stopped and said, okay, now it's time for the newcomer to share. And they just had a couple of things there that they stuck to.
you're right.
And it's good recovery there.
If I go there to live, it's not going to be because of any political asylum, but I do love Portugal and would like to. It's a place I would like to live there a couple, 3-4 months a year.
In what part of Portugal? The Algarve or?
Well, yes, but Lisbon
Lisbon's beautiful.
is one of my favorite places ever.
Yeah.
You know,
And what about, have you been to meetings? I know you went to Italy not too long ago, too.
Italy and Barcelona. And
Did you go to meetings there?
no,
Yeah. Yeah. I've been to a meeting in Nepal, and it was actually an NA meeting, and they were so sweet to me. They let me read how it works in English, and then they went back to the Nepalese, I guess, and stuff. Because I was there to hike up to Everest Base Camp. So I made that hike, and
Nice.
it was very,
Yeah.
something I've never thought I would do, you know.
good for you, man.
Yeah, it was some cool stuff. And I've been to Vietnam, been to Laos. Have you been to Vietnam?
That's on the books.
Yeah.
So that's definitely on the bucket list of
Yeah.
things. I am going to certainly live my best life.
Yeah.
I've made a choice to. I could sit around and worry about stuff, but it's time to get living.
Good for you.
Yeah. Somebody's got to do it. You know.
Yeah.
I mean,
Well, we say it all the time that when you're sober, you have complete freedom. You know, there's nothing holding you back from doing whatever it is you want to do, which I wish I'd have known many years ago. I just thought the sober life was a boring life, and I didn't want any part of it.
Right.
And man, was I wrong, because the sober life is the life that has all the fun.
Right.
And if I could impart that to any young people these days, I try to tell them.
Right.
I don't think there's a whole lot of drunk people listening to this show. Most of the people listening, I think, are sober or trying to stay sober. But I always share is, it's a great life hack. Sobriety opens up way more doors than partying ever did. The only doors that partying ever opened up were jail doors or, late night doors that I shouldn't have gone in anyway, usually in Dunedin. But
Yeah, I agree with that. Now, that's what I found when I first got sober. I realized I had two choices now. I could drink or not drink. I doubled my choices. And just like this podcast growing exponentially, the choices then become, you have more choices. You could do, it came to me, I got a good buddy that opened the Warehouse Club there.
Yeah.
And he used to say to me, he'd say, you got 65, if you're lucky, you got 60, 65 good years on this planet. What are you going to do with them? Then he put to me, like, are you going to start a business and grow? As young people especially need to hear that. You're right.
Yeah.
Or are you going to go back to school? I had a sponsor that went back and became an international lawyer, and he was a big inspiration to me. And again, he said to me, hey, I got this guy. He's going to hook you up. And the state, like at that time, helped pay for my tuition and going to school because I had nothing.
Yeah.
So I was very fortunate. It was the right time and the right place for me.
Was that kind of state job placement type thing?
It was vocational rehab.
Is that what you did too, Primo? Because you went to some sort of state sponsored thing when you they ended up saying you should be a chef or something, or you should be a counselor. What was it? Or you should just be a drunk? What'd they say you should be?
They decided that I had a great aptitude to become a dog.
A dog washer. That's right.
Washer. Boy, did I fucking. I was like,
I wasn't too crazy about being drug counselor either. I was like, oh, Jesus, that no.
I mean, when I sat there and listened to him say that, I was like, let's just say I knocked it out of the park. You know, it was crazy. So, ninth grade dropout, 10-time loser, nothing's going my way. I get sober, and I have the Midas touch, man. Everything. I get like insurance in a car. I fix all the problems. I'm like driving again after years of riding a bicycle, like I was a beach rat, just hanging out on the beaches. And dude, I had gotten to college after a GED. I had like advanced standings. I went into because of life experience in cooking. I was like I did 2 years of college in 11 months. Yeah. Like everything was like crazy. Let's go do it. And I moved everything. Everything I owned. I put in a car and I drove to Vegas and did an apprenticeship at the Mirage Hotel. Like worked for Steve Wynn and all these guys. And that's what I wanted. You know what I mean? And it came down to what did I want to do? You know what I mean? There was nothing blocking me. I was no longer a slave to this other thing. So now I could focus on whatever the hell I wanted to do.
Yeah.
Yep. And it's like, I hear people talk, well, it's hard. This is hard and that's hard. Well, okay, then it must be worth it.
Right.
So that's what the deal is, and I didn't have a lot of like religious, like, wasn't like God was like doing all the work. I just was an action oriented guy. If I wanted results, I had to do the work. It's the bottom line.
You were a chef though.
Yeah.
Back when I first met you, right? I remember hearing stories about you being a chef. So you had that going, stepping in, but then you learned more about it, huh?
Yeah, I had a budding career in the fast food industry.
Do you want fries with that?
Yeah.
Yeah. That's actually let's go back to that point. What do you remember from meeting Primo and your first reactions? And I mean, you're his counselor, right?
Yes, I was his counselor, but I want to stress that thank God for good supervision in that situation. Because I really, if you think about, when I think back on where my head was at 4 or 5 years sober, where, with a minimal amount of education, well, I had 2 years, but a part of the way I got that job, and I was, other people around me had master's degrees and they were, master's level counselors, but I was like, yeah, but I'm sober too,
Yeah.
So I had that 5 year sobriety, 4 year sobriety, and that degree. And so what I remember is, like I said, the supervisors of the situation were reading his file, I think, a little closer than I was, and saying, listen, whatever he tells you,
don't believe it.
Take it with a grain of salt, and like that listening is a tough thing to do. You were sharing about that too, of setting yourself aside. Like a lot of the philosophy was based on Carl Rogers, and you would just, I would say, Chris, tell me a story, and he would go on about like some crazy cartel stuff, and all kinds of, like people and stuff, and I would basically just reflect it back to him, and say, well, and how does that make you feel? And
dude, I just totally remember I was in your office, on Sheldon Road or whatever the hell it was.
Right.
And I do remember you were getting a little nervous. I just remember like your eyes started darting back and forth, and I'm like, I think I just made this guy nervous. Like you weren't sure that what I was saying wasn't like there wasn't like some people going to come out of the ceiling and fucking kill us.
Right.
Because it was based in a lot of reality.
Right. Right.
And I remember you're like, are we safe, man? I mean, like, can we get this guy into a state institution and then let him figure some shit over there and then bring him back? It was, I just remember having that energy from you.
Well, and you reminded me about taking your car keys, which honestly was never be my idea. Because I was, the way I grew up and the way I was, I couldn't imagine somebody taking my car keys away from me or taking, I hadn't had those experiences where I'm like,
Well, the thing was,
freedom like that.
The thing was, is you could have your car there, and then you could drive people to the morning sessions, right? So everyone wanted, if you had a car, you were like God.
Right.
Because most of the people didn't have a car. And so I had a car, and I pulled out. But as I was pulling out, I accidentally put it in second gear, and I cut off the director of the treatment center. And she's so she's locking it up. I like totally cut her off, and she's like fishtailing it with fucking smoke coming out of her tires. And we're all like, and I'm like, fuck you. So we go in.
It's not that different from driving over here today or anything.
Exactly. Right. He did the same thing on the way here.
Yeah. So the lady, her name was Diane. Excuse me. She was so pissed when she showed up at the thing, and we're getting out of the car. And here she is. So she like her makeup's all screwed up, and she's like ready to kill somebody. And she yelled at me, and the next thing you know, you came over and took my car keys, and I was not having it.
Right.
And
right.
I remember decorating the house a little bit, and I actually wrote about that in my journal about how angry I was. I have that journal, believe it or not.
No kidding.
Yeah, that was a cool exercise for me, was to journal in early recovery, because I was writing down like my thoughts and feelings, and it's just a tip I was given. And I remember just looking back to it, you could tell if it was a good day or bad day based on how heavy the pen was. Like I was almost like scratching through the paper sometimes. Yeah. And other days it just kind of flowed. And so it was quite interesting.
But there are a lot of characters back then that we were around, but you never know of those people. Maybe, 100 of them, maybe 2 people are still around or get sober or they have to go through some other things. Who knows? They go by, they're all in the wind now, but.
Well, there's some people you do know, and there's actually after there's somebody that's not doing so well in the hospital right now, but sober, and unfortunately, and I'm going to have to say a prayer for this person.
But there was a lot of politics going on with working there. The typical counselor at Turning Point at that time, when I went to apply to other jobs after that, they said, how long were you at Turning Point? And I would say a year. And they go, oh, man, you made the whole year. Like a lot of times they would get fired. There was a lot of body brokering situations going on. I don't know if you're aware of that. Like,
what the hell is body brokering?
That would be where someplace up north, a 28-day treatment center, the people who got the person into the treatment center, they got a little commish, right? It was sales, right?
Yeah.
And so then that person maybe would come from Pennsylvania or New York. We got a lot from the Northeast, and they would come down, and I would get a call in my office, and the guy would have a heavy, Boston accent, sounded like he was off The Sopranos, and he would say to me, now listen, when this guy is done with Turning Point, you're going to recommend him back up here to this facility at this time and this. And I was like, well, how can you tell me that? Maybe recovery-wise, he'd be better off to live in Florida. Or stay here, or move away from some of his old, heroin connections. It might not be the best thing for him to go back.
Go right back.
But I remember specifically one day telling a guy that, like, listen, I'm going to recommend what I think is good for this person. Hung up the phone, right? 5 minutes later, the owner of Turning Point, Michael Radcliffe. Right?
Oh yeah, came in
and said, "Oh no, you are not." There was a network back then, and Radcliffe had a great idea, and he was like, he had in his office was the tail end of a husky, and said, if you're not the lead dog, the view never changes. And he was a big he was selling drugs, and then changed his profession and became that profession, and he really had a good idea at the time. He had a place in Maryland. He had a place opening up in California. And he got on a plane one day, and the plane crashed, and he became like in a wheelchair.
He lived? The plane crashed, and he paralyzed, but he lived?
Yeah, and then he was a vegetable for the next. Well, he owed me money, So, just saying.
I'm just saying.
Do I owe you any money, Mike?
Yeah.
Okay.
Careful on your next flight.
Careful.
Yeah. Well,
Exactly.
that's an interesting point because I remember having very good insurance, and I remember being in, my insurance was going to pay for it, and I just remember all these guys trying to show up, giving me brochures, and this one place he shows me this brochure, and it has a putting green, and it has like these beautiful apartments. Come and stay with us. We have this great program. You go to meetings, you do this, you do that. And I'm like, whoa. And then another guy came in and he had a fucking thing he was selling. And I was like, oh, wow, well. So I was kind of pitting them against each other. And I thought I was like, like I had leverage or something. It was weird. Like I had some sort of power.
Right.
All I had was insurance money is all I had.
Right.
See, and I think things have changed now. I think things have definitely changed.
Well,
I don't know. What do you think?
yeah, I mean, there's corruption everywhere still underlying all, I used to figure out how much that you made an hour when I was sitting there based on how much insurance I had.
I made $22,000 a year.
Yeah,
and that was the best job I had at that point in my career.
And I was like, that son of a bitch is making $22,000 a year.
That's not much money.
That son of a bitch. Get him over here and tell him to wash my clothes. I mean, I really thought I had
I made $22,000 a year, and I had to go and get your car keys from you.
know.
They gave me that job.
I know. That was not, But after dealing with me, they probably promoted you, for sure.
Primo, you went to a number of rehab facilities. Was that when you went and met Skinner? Was that the last one? Was that the one that got you sober?
Yeah.
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 Well, that's what I want to say. I mean, he definitely. I respect his idea because that concept of 28 days and then go back to your life. No.
Right.
28 days and maybe nowadays it's a sober living facility.
Right.
But I don't see these guys in the sober living facility getting the kind of therapy and support and contacts that you got at Turning Point.
Well, that it's like anything. Like, so when I went to culinary school, right, the goods are there. You know what I mean? The information and the opportunity is there. Now you can get out of there and be useless, or you can be a fucking chef.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it's all about application. So I don't think that that it matters if you're around other people striving to get better in a recovery environment and you're not taking advantage of that, then that's on you.
Yeah, I hear what you're saying, and I agree with you. It definitely, what doesn't matter, there was a lot of people at that time that were benefited from the same support that you did that didn't make it because they didn't choose to. But I feel we do have a responsibility to make sure that, like you said, the information was there and the high level of some of those people that were supervising me, I really respected their expertise with counseling. And not too long ago, maybe a couple of years now, I took, people will call me still to this day and say, I want to get so-and-so. We want to try to get them help, get them into treatment. I remember going down to Turning Point of St. Pete, which is really not a private facility. It's if you're really down and out, you're going to go there. Right. Same name, but whole different thing. Opening the door, and it's a warehouse with mats on the floor, like 50, and you have to sleep on that mat for a couple of days or weeks until you get a bedroom.
Wow.
And I looked at that and said, this is America. How come we can't do better? And they're not getting the education that I can talk to you about and bore people to tears with, the disease concept and several things like that.
Sure. I mean,
they're not getting it. And I feel like there is less education, less counseling, less care.
Okay, so the treatment environment versus walk off the street guy show up and get recovery, okay? As far as the debate can go, it's my humble opinion and my experience that's what the guardrails that I was talking about earlier, that this program is designed really well. And if you just follow the simple guidelines, the principles that lay it at our feet and utilize it, and that includes the working and feeding off other people, the helping other people is like the first thing, the one thing I wish I would have learned early in my recovery is to not think about myself and worry about the things I'm not getting or all that shit, but just to focus my energy on other people and how I can best serve my fellow man, that everything comes to me by doing that. Everything. Like I didn't know that for so many, because I was a power-driven egomaniac that was inferior, and I had insecurities, and I needed, and I had to do all this stuff so that I could feel better. I didn't realize that if I thought about you more than me, that I was going to get everything I needed. It was crazy. And I wasn't until I had to take care of my father with Alzheimer's that became a reality, that I was like, wow. And it's been like that. And, and it's my relationship with my wife has been great. My new, and all the other relationships, the more that I incorporate that into my relationship, the better they are. And the more that I grow. But I digress every once in a while.
No, that was good. I really appreciated that. That's you're absolutely right. I need to hear that. I can get up on my soapbox and my high horse with some of these things. It's possible that I might be wrong.
You could be wrong. Yeah, I like that, Mike. That's
So Skinner, you went from being a counselor, and then you got some certificates, and then you became a teacher. Like what age groups were you teaching?
I taught today. I was at school today, and I teach. I'm always been successful middle school, 6th, 7th, and 8th. So I was counseling, and I think I was listening to somebody at one of Chris's compadres. I think I left there to go to school when he was. I abandoned him. I walked out on him. He was one of my clients that I said I got to go. But about that time, that's
like he was in your office and you walked out on him never went back.
No, I ended up getting another job, and so I said goodbye to everybody. And he was one of the ones that I did. But later on, I remember I was looking at my kids. I wanted better insurance for them. I could see the writing on the wall with the treatment industry. So I ended up being able to go back to school, and I got a 4-year degree in education. But my idea at that time was to incorporate what I knew about drug and alcohol treatment into the public school system. Both my parents were teachers, my grandparents were teachers, so I had always had that as something that would be, where I could eventually get to. So I took, it took me probably, it was by the time I was 39, I finally walked across that stage, got a 4-year degree, and started working at Pinellas County Schools. And I think I started in 97, 96. And here recently I retired. I took care of my mom for a little while too. And now I'm a substitute teacher, and I got my retirement coming in. So I'm like living the life now. It's like so nice to be able to just chill and do what I want to do. I work like 3.5, 4 days a week. So.
Yeah. Do you sub at the same school all the time?
A bunch of different schools up in North County, like Carwise.
But I would.
Oh, you're up there by me.
Yeah.
I would say that the teachers are always thinking they're there with other people, imparting information. It's got to have that real good feel good.
It's good to be around those kids. When I was doing it full time, I did get to that point where I was burnt out, and I was not effective, and I was unhappy. And right before COVID, I retired, and so I started doing some other thing. I got my captain's license.
Nice.
And
see, I think I would like that. I think I would enjoy having people wanting, I don't know.
Well, and addressing you as Captain Primo.
Yeah,
there's something.
I'm signing
ego stroke there.
Yeah, I'm gonna get that certificate tomorrow. My AI, my new AI relationship that I have, I make it call me chef. Yes, chef. No, chef. And I say when it asks me a question, it will only ask me as a chef. It's either yes, chef, or no, chef. Love it. I feel like Gordon Ramsay, actually.
Will these young people that I saw today gifted, smart, upper, will they have jobs?
Yes. The answer to that is yes. Yes.
This young lady was telling me, I love to say this to them. It's so much fun to be around them now. I said to her, well, so what do you want to be when you grow up? And she had a whole plan. Can you imagine being in middle school and being able to tell a teacher, this is your plan? I told her that how unusual that was. I said,
unless
rarely.
the plan is like, I want to be in the circus or a baseball player or something like that.
Well,
that's a middle school answer.
Yeah, but it's like this tall. He wants to be a basketball player.
Right.
But
She wanted to be a cosmetologist, and she wanted to get her MBA and own her own company. I said, "You're going to do great."
Nice.
They're
Yeah.
perfect. But think about this:
Smart.
with all this stuff being the computers that all the jobs that were created out of computers. Think about all the jobs that are going to come back because they're not going to be needed and to be sitting in front of screens anymore. People are going to work with their hands. They're going to be working around people. They're going to be producing and creating stuff. I think it may actually be a benefit to our society. And
You're so positive, Primo. How did you get to be so positive? I feel like my mindset is, you kids get off my lawn,
yeah,
And you got that positive vibe about,
Dude.
This group's going to be fine. What? How did I get into this?
You should have that,
critical role,
right? You're the part-time teacher.
yeah. You're the
one who should be
therapist. I had this therapist a long time ago that helped me guide me in this direction of positivity.
So now he's a retired middle school substitute. Yeah. Seems about right. I think it's fantastic that you got that 4-year at 39 years old. I mean, it just goes to show you can start over at any time, especially if you put down the bottle. Nothing's going to stop you from getting what you want to get done.
Amen to that.
It's true.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, believe it or not, we're coming up on an hour. And so, Mike, is there anything else that you would, did you have a story prepared? Was there something you wanted to lay out for us tonight, or have you covered mostly what you wanted to talk about? Or
I think I've covered. I want to say how grateful I am to have the opportunity to still be in the game a little bit there and be able to share. I want to say this, that, like I said, I had a false start with it, and I thought, I got a mild case of this alcoholism. I'm not going to do all this. I did have to jump in with both feet, and I believe in that for young people, to jump in with both feet, do like Primo here did, and get involved in something, and get back in the mainstream of life. I'm a big believer in either the people that inspired me in early recovery started businesses, went back to school, jumped in with both feet, and didn't look back. And I looked up to them, and I did that. I did that with going back to school myself. But I think that the message I'd like to give to the young people is it's possible, and I hope that if there's anything I can do to help guide or inspire, I'm available.
Love it. Love it. Well, listen, if you're having a tough time quitting whatever it is that you know you need to quit, you're not alone. There's apps and numbers and groups in your town, or you can call us if you want. Leave us a message, 813-625-2532. Hit us up on Facebook. Taking that first step into a room or a chat or a group with people trying to get better just like you will be the best day of your life. Primo, what do you got for your final point for tonight's show?
Well, I get hit with this every show. I have to come up with something that summarizes the magnificent time that we've had here this evening. And I'm just going to keep it simple this time. Trust God, clean house, and help others. That's it, man.
That's it. You guys are great with your parting words. It's been very inspirational. Well, thanks for listening to Sober Shenanigans, real talk and real recovery. Worry, anxiety, and fear, it's all just up in here. Give yourself a break. You're enough, and you're doing great. Thank you, Mike. We appreciate you being here. I'm Stoff, and he's Primo. And remember, no drinks today.
Bam.
We're all in the same boat, fellas.
But our shenanigans are cheeky and fun.
Yeah, I mean, his shenanigans are cruel and tragic.
Which makes them not shenanigans at all, really.
Evil shenanigans.
I swear to God, I'll pistol whip the next guy that says shenanigans.